recording. Keep it live. We run this show live. We make mistakes. They stay on.
Yeah.
Screw everything. It means that I have to edit, but helps me improve it, you know?
There you go.
Are we ready?
We are ready. Let's do this. All right.
Get that throat cleared up, Rene. Let's go. Let's go. This is official issue number 1.
Issue number 1.
Let's do this.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Keeping Up with the Nerds Variety Hour, coming to you from 12920 Philadelphia Street, Whittier, California. I'm aiming to be Walmart. I was going to say Walmart for some reason. I was like,
run it again. Okay. Run it again.
Walmart. Okay. Hello, Internet. Welcome to Keeping Up with the Nerds Variety Hour, coming to you from 12920 Philadelphia Street, Whittier, California, aiming to be Whittier's number 1 podcast for all things nerdy. I'm your host, Rene.
And sidekick, superhost, Bryan.
And welcome to today's episode.
I like that intro.
That was a good one?
That was a good one. There was a little bit of in the number.
It was the number.
But whatever. You know what? Just give it like 5 more episodes and you should be golden.
Yes.
Like we gotta alternate. It's like one day, one issue you, one issue me. We're good. Yeah. We're golden. Trust me, it takes a while. And you get like those like pre-recording sweats where you get nervous like I'm gonna mess up. After a while you'll be fine. Yeah. You'll be fine. Well, thank you. Welcome back, listeners. This is official issue number 1.
Mm-hmm.
I know on the Spotify, Podbean, and YouTube channel, there are currently 2 episodes of Keeping Up with the Nerds Variety Hour, but we decided to make the first issue 0, kind of like a little promo kind of thing, trying to figure out exactly how we were going to do it and all this other stuff. And this is official issue number 1, where we're going to start. This is it. This is the one that's going to be the one to remember as the first one.
Yes, this is the solidifying us as our official podcast episode.
Yes.
Which is also scary. But we will get through this together.
The expectations are so high, Renee. Everyone is going to be like...
have hyped it up so much now. But I think this episode's going to be a good episode, especially after hearing our essential prequel episode. We're still going along the lines of that right now. It's just some news dropped by today.
Yes.
Actually.
So we're going to talk about what we're going to talk about in a bit. Mm-hmm. But if you have not listened to issue 0 of our podcast Variety Hour, the Keeping Up with the Nerds Variety Hour, I would suggest just quickly picking over there and give it a view, give it a listen at Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, whatever you're listening on. That way you can kind of catch up as to what we're talking about. But a quick little recap. We basically discussed how comic books basically were distributed during the pandemic. Yeah. Our thoughts on it, how exactly it's going to work out. Because I'll tell you right now, as a consumer of comic books, my fear was during the entire shutdown, I was going to have a pile worth of about $150 in comic books. And that wasn't the case.
No, that wasn't at all. No. Diamond Distributors have decided that during that time, they were also going to temporarily shut down for a little bit. Not too long. We knew that it wasn't going to be long, but the thing is that it did feel like a while because of everything else that was shut down during the pandemic as well, too, or still during the pandemic right now as we're talking. But they basically put everything on hold. Nothing was distributed. Nothing was put out. But the week before officially things were supposed to be distributed, DC Comics decided to put out 1 or 2, maybe like 3 or 4 of their books. Not big ones, but I think one was a Flash issue. One was a Wonder Woman issue. One was a Hawkman issue. It's like issues people don't care about. But
you're going to have that one person that randomly it's like, Hawkman? You say that no one cares about Hawkman?
Hawkman?
They just get mad.
Calm down. He flies around with some strap-on wings and a metal mace.
And we just lost another one.
They'll come back. They always do. Us nerds always enjoy the abuse. We're used to it.
Why did they do this? God. And then come back like 3 weeks later. It's like, yeah, you know what? That's me and Dan Slott. A little tangent on that whole thing. God, man. Dan Slott ruined Spider-Man for me and somehow I still came crawling back.
I remember.
Yeah, you remember my anger issues with that. And
you were more angry at the Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, though.
We don't talk about that. All right, so they released these issues.
Yes, they released just a small number of issues, maybe no more than the fingers on my hand. And a lot of people were worried at the time. They were like, am I going to miss out on those issues? Am I going to not get those issues at all that some people do read? And no, that's not the case. DC decided to jump the gun a bit to kind of just like, what feels now was a trial run, especially with the topic that we're talking about. But basically they just wanted to, I guess they wanted to put out, just in case if Diamond wasn't going to open soon, a secondary distributor, just in case.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
And so a lot of people were worried, but then Diamond opened up the next week and then put out the comics. Now they have officially caught up on those comics that were released prior in between the pandemic shutdown and stuff like that.
So let's do a quick minute timeline of exactly what happened. So let's say at the beginning, when would you estimate the beginning of when distributors stopped putting out recent issues of comics?
That was the end of March.
The end of March.
Yeah.
So from the end of March to about
May 20th.
The second, third week of May?
Yeah. Second or third week of May, yeah.
So you have March, April, and May, almost 2.5 months.
Yeah, like
of nothing.
Yeah, of nothing.
Okay.
They were still putting out digital books, but it wasn't single issues. It was the trade paperbacks collections for certain books as well too.
Okay.
Those were only released on digital during the shutdown.
Okay, so nothing mainline that
most
comic book readers would think is
it wasn't
like
major titles or anything like that. That's
okay.
The thing.
So that's the timeline.
Yeah.
From March to May, we had no comic books coming out. Then third-ish, fourth-ish week of May, we have the trial run of Diamond.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've established that. Let's move on to today's topic. What did don't jump the gun. Let's make this dramatic. What happened to the distributors or the distribution company?
So today, DC did announce that they are cutting ties with Diamond Distributors.
Okay, so this means, to keep in mind, DC is the publishing company.
DC is a publishing company, yes.
And Diamond
is
Distribution.
A distributor, yeah. It's a distribution place.
Diamond Distributor, Diamond Distribution, however you say it, right?
Yeah.
That's the company that essentially grabs the books.
Yes.
And sends them out to retailers.
Yes,
comic book stores.
Yeah, it's the central middleman that like they decide, you need that middleman though, to put out your books. Because I think DC just makes the books and then just gives it to Diamond.
Gotcha.
Like
okay. So this came out today. This news came out
June
today.
5th. Yeah.
June 5th on a Friday.
Yes.
You found this out in the morning?
Yeah, in the
morning.
morning.
And how did you find out exactly?
So what I found out, I'm actually
This is you.
Yeah, this is me. I follow Diamond Distributors since the pandemic happened and stuff like that. Since the shutdown has happened as well too for Diamond Distributors, I decided to follow Diamond Distributors on Twitter. That way, if I get and I have the notification bell ready, so push notifications from Diamond in case stuff like this happens, or if they decided to shut down again, at least I'll know and stuff like that, and not wait around and come here and be like, oh, the comic book store is closed and stuff like that. So this morning I got a notification on Twitter, and then I was like, it says DC Comics decided, and I was just like, DC Comics decided. So I just clicked on it, and it says DC Comics has decided to cut all ties with Diamond Distributors. And I was like, wait, what?
This was like out of the blue, basically.
This was out of the blue. But now, looking back, it felt like the recent events were leading up to it. Like the little things that Diamond, DC, God, both D's and I have to get.
Both D's nuts.
D's. It's gonna happen a lot in this episode, guys. I'm telling you. I'm gonna say Diamond instead of DC. It's gonna happen. Watch. I'm sorry.
We need to keep this organized as much as possible.
I have to try, but just a fair warning. DC decided to. I was like, wow. So what does that mean for DC though? Like, does that mean that they're not? Is it gonna be a run of comics when they're not gonna be put out? But
when you told me this before we started recording,
I remember,
it sounded weird to me because
it sounds off, right?
Because usually you think like it happens a lot. Yeah. Like I'm not going to say that when a company cuts ties with someone, it's like you plan it. When you cut ties, it's unplanned. You know, you see this a lot in the movie industry. You saw it with I'll give you an example, like the video game industry when Bungie cut ties with, I think, was it Activision?
Activision, yes.
Yeah, Bungie cut ties, and then Destiny 2 basically became its own independent thing in its own distribution, right? Yeah. So you see it all the time, and these announcements come unexpectedly. The question that I had that kind of struck me when we kind of slightly talked about it before the recording was, it just seemed odd that DC was the one to do it.
That's the thing.
The announcement.
Yeah. It felt really odd because it felt like DC had a good cushion with Diamond from, you know, what I've seen, you know, coming into the comic book store and stuff like that, and seeing what comes out, what's been out and stuff. You know, for weeks, Marvel is the one that's been kind of like holding back. So that's why it felt like it would have been Marvel that would have cut ties, because they haven't put out anything. DC has been pushing all their titles out so far, but then that could be a thing too. Maybe they're trying to wrap up stuff because newer books are supposed to come out. Like, I know that we're still waiting for Joker, the 3 Jokers, DC's Dark Knight's Death Metal. That's supposed to come out. But I don't know. That's the thing. So I don't know what that means for future titles for the meantime, like if we're gonna have a grace period of DC Comics, because I don't know if comic book stores have to order and just wait, you know,
just see what happens, basically. Yeah, like all of this is up in the air because this is all last minute. You said
this just happened today.
Which I mean, it kind of it's a little weird to see, because now you have when people didn't even know what was going to happen with all these different issues that were supposed to come out. Now you have a bigger question to ask, and in like how's DC going to continue to distribute these comic books, especially if they have, you know, future plans. You said the 3 Jokers, right? That's one of the issues that's supposed to come out. But that's still months. We still have to wait months, right? Like it's nothing like this isn't like anything close by.
No, not at all. If anything, the Joker anniversary issue is going to come out next week. I know that. So that's going to be a big thing, because, you know, all the anniversary issues everyone's been grabbing because they have like different covers and stuff like that over the decades. So that won't be affected at all, it seems like, because that comes out next week.
So you found out through Twitter, basically.
I found out through Twitter,
through
and
them announcing this.
Yeah, and I usually trust Twitter half the time.
Well, if it's coming directly from the source, you know, it's like they can't basically lie. But have you tried looking up anything away from other
I've looked up
source?
Yeah. So the one I've looked up was Hollywood Reporter, which I'm kind of shocked that they
reported
it. And they reported it. And
that's
stuff.
like the Washington Post deciding to like review a video game or something, or Forbes.
Yeah, it looks like they got their research done too, because from what I've seen, they've even mentioned that DC was with Diamond Comic Distributors. That's the official title.
Okay.
Diamond Comic Distributors for 25 years. That's like, wow, 25 years. But it seems like they said that essentially they're not trying to say it, but it seems like the straw that broke the camel's back with DC was the shutdown of COVID-19.
So
that's the thing. It seems like DC's final, but they said that even DC has said that this is something that they've been moderately thinking about. But it seems like now, since COVID-19, the COVID-19 pandemic, that was it. They were like, okay, we don't want to stop putting out comic books anytime soon. We don't want to put a hold on it.
That's such a weird thing, though. It's because I didn't even know 25 years together, and then for them to just basically say, I think, you know what? I'll put it this way. My thoughts on this is that I think that this was already being planned. And I think they just needed the kind of last minute push to essentially say, okay, we're going to cut ties. Because if they've been together for 25 years and nothing has really been, you know, there hasn't been any issues, there hasn't been any drama between the two companies in those 25 years that at least the public didn't know about, for them to all of a sudden say, well, we're going to cut ties and head another direction with no plan, it just seems, seems odd.
Now I'm reading it and looking at it now. They do have 3 distributors in North America that people can choose from in different sections of it, in the West Coast and East Coast.
They've split their distribution?
Yes. So now there's 3 different distributors that they will be directly into contract with, which is weird. 3 distributors.
And this is coming from
Hollywood Reporter.
Damn, they did their research.
They did a good job.
All right.
Yeah. So Penguin Random House, that's another distributor that they can choose from. Apparently they sell other books from that time as well too. There's also Lunar Distributors, and then USC Comic Book Distributors as well too. Those are the ones,
is in the college, or is it different?
UCS.
UCS. Okay.
UCS
Not
Comic
USC.
Book. Yeah. UCS Comic Book Distributors. Those are the three distributors that comic book retailers can look into. They said that they recommend if you're in the East Coast, you go through UCS Comic Book Distributors for better timing to get your comics in and stuff like that.
What the heck? This is coming from the Hollywood Reporter?
Yeah.
This is stuff that usually doesn't get reported by them.
Like, really.
But that's interesting because, like, okay, so then there was a backup plan to DC. Because from my understanding, I thought that DC just cut ties and then us... I would imagine the stores would have to essentially just wait it out and see what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But then DC had a recovery plan then.
Yeah,
that's what it seems like.
It says right here, to ensure smooth transitions for retailers, DC will suspend final order cutoff dates for June 8th, making those books available to order on the final order cutoff on June 15th. So we have until comic book stores have until June 15th, between June 8th and June 15th, to order their DC comics through those three distributors.
Who wrote this article?
Let me see. I can't even pronounce their name. Oh my God, Graham. I'm gonna say Graham.
Okay.
McMillan. And then
does he have like a title or something, like
have a
editor or
just works for the Hollywood Reporter. This is probably the nerdy guy that works at the Hollywood Reporter.
The one dude that has his time to shine.
He was like waiting. He was waiting.
His office is like the broom closet in the back of the room, and then like his chief editor comes in. He's like, "It's your time." What?
We need you to cover. No. They're probably just like, okay, yeah, we need you to cover an article that DC Comics cut ties with some distributor named Diamond. And he's like, what?
I can imagine a J. Jonah Jameson kind of person like busting it. I need the photos on this right now.
I need the photos. I need the article now.
No, like good job on that, because like. It's funny because like
it's a small article. It's not even a super long one.
No, it doesn't need to be,
it's
because
like
this is how much are you going to report on this?
5 paragraphs. This is a 5-paragraph article. Really good. Everything, it seems to be like
this podcast is just praising his work at this point. But like it's really written well, because you pulled up a Nerdist one.
I put up a Nerdist one, and I was actually going through the Nerdist, and they're taking stuff, scoops and facts from Newsarama. Because they said Newsarama got the scoop, and they said so and so and so and so, and says and then Newsarama calls the two. Yeah, they're like blah 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 blah.
So they're referencing.
It's
other
the
works,
same thing, yeah.
Basically,
but
do they provide the same information as the Hollywood Reporter?
Let me see. Ooh, so actually, Newsarama does have a. Hold on. Yeah, okay. Newsarama does have a link where you can see local shops that are around the country and stuff like that. So you can see where your shop is and locate where the distributor will be.
Okay. That is interesting.
That's actually pretty good.
Because it's kind of funny how the distribution, not of the books this I'm talking about, but like of the news, pretty much went from like you finding out on Twitter and then other sources basically coming in and essentially like trying to figure out how they can distribute this information properly to people. They
did say that USC is a sister company to the New York City's very own Midtown Comics.
Huh. USC or UCS?
UCS.
UCS.
Oh my God.
DC and now Diamond.
DC and Diamond. USC. All these C's and D's
and U's and all these different things.
I swear I'm not dyslexic. It's just we are literally recording as we find this out right now, guys.
It's because we wanted to go into this conversation fresh, pretty much, and it's interesting to see all this stuff because from the public's perspective, two people that essentially are just comic book readers, you listen to this and this is a major freak out because you expect your books to come out on a certain date. We have those occasional like interferences where they say, hey, you know what, issue whatever of whatever is going to come out on this Wednesday. And then, oh yeah, sorry, we delayed it.
Yeah.
How much do we freak out?
Freak out pretty well.
Yeah, it's like pretty much
especially if it's a big issue and stuff like that. So
what was it? The last issue of The Walking Dead.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't even think I had my hands on that.
I don't think that's the thing. We like the comic book store. Oh man, like I want to talk about it, but it's like so working here really quick. This is my own personal experience here working here at the comic book store. The thing is that when that happens, we order a certain amount of books to have. So we have to order 3 months ahead of time and stuff like that. And so when it came to Walking Dead was like we usually do order a lot of books for Walking Dead and stuff like that because it was popular. But the thing was, it started to die down a bit. The fandom, the fans, only certain fans that have been following it for a while.
I'll admit
kept
I dropped
on.
out.
Yeah. Only fans that have been with it for the very beginning or loved it more than others have been still keeping up with it. So we only order a certain amount to cater to those ones. And that's it. And then we're done after that. So we did the same thing for when the last issue, well, at the time we didn't know it was the last issue of The Walking Dead. Then Robert Kirkman, the writer.
Oh, now you're bringing flashbacks now. I remember.
Yeah. Robert Kirkman, the writer, decided to post on Twitter, literally the night before release, was 193 will be the final issue of The Walking Dead. So it will be an extra thick packed issue of 100 pages. And it'll be the final book.
Okay. So, oh my God. So this is what I mean of like any news like this, like a distribution company or a publishing company cutting ties with a distribution company. Yeah, that's a big deal for comic book readers.
Yeah.
Because you don't know when your issues are going to come out now. So on a smaller scale, Robert Kirkman coming out on Twitter and saying, yo, guys, this is the final issue. I remember calling the store and trying to get a hold of a copy. I unfortunately couldn't get a copy. I unfortunately couldn't because I think I called a little too late. But it made me mad because I was following the news. I knew that it was going to end. Didn't he have like 5 other issues before or 6 other issues?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It didn't even end on like an even number as well too.
No, because I think he was supposed to run up to issue 200.
If he was going to, he should have done it at 200. I don't think there was a hint.
No. So there was a hint. There was
at the end.
There was not in the books, but in the way that Robert Kirkman. And this is a little tangent. We're sorry. We'll go back to the whole DC distribution thing, but like that's why it's so weird to us how the DC cut ties with Diamond. There was no hint there, but Robert Kirkman kind of hinted that he wanted to finish it because he kept tweeting that he was already exhausted. Like he didn't want to keep writing the books. He just kind of wanted to end it, but he just didn't know how to end it. Like he dug himself into a hole. So that's why him coming out and saying like, yeah, issue 183, that's it, guys. We're not gonna do more. It like freaked everyone out because now people who were expecting the 6 or 7 other issues that were supposed to come out have to essentially rush in and order. If they drop The Walking Dead like I did, you got to call your store and you got to be like, hey, can you put this on hold? See if you're one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, and I think with retailers, they already pre-ordered the issues after as well too. So I think most of those were also worried that, well, what's going to happen? Am I just going to get refunded, or are they going to be something else that comes out in between? And Diamond did end up refunding those retailers that ordered
all the other
books
to come out
post 193.
It's a weird thing, and people think that like comic books are kind of like a dead thing, but the reality is it isn't. It's still as live as ever. It's just more business than anything at this point.
Yeah,
cancellation of comic books or like the cutting of ties of distribution with publishers, like this stuff affects it, and it's a big deal when we don't get our books just because we might not know.
That's the one big fear when it comes to comic book readers. Yeah, is that in a series you're reading and you're so invested, and then you're so, or even so, just like trying to just basically keep up with as well too. When you hear that your book or your publisher is no longer doing what you think it's doing, or basically do a drastic decision like cutting ties with the main profit or a main distributor, you're kind of worried. You're like, so what does that mean? Does that mean that comic book stores will no longer carry it, or will it mean that I have to go to a different comic book store? Is it only certain comic book stores and stuff like that? That's another thing too. Does that mean that other comic book stores will even try to go through another distributor? There are some comic book stores that heavily rely on Diamond to get everything. Yeah, and won't even have a second thought to go through a secondary publisher,
especially when they've been in the business for that long.
Yeah.
So then let me ask you this, because like I said, you didn't think that Robert Kirkman had kind of hinted that he wanted to basically end it.
I don't know. I mean, I know that he's basically had a general idea of the ending since he wrote the comic book.
It just didn't end up the way he wanted.
No,
it
it didn't. He even said, I did remember hearing he actually changed the ending from his head originally to a different ending, and that was like maybe like 2 or 3 months prior.
Yeah.
He recently changed the ending because he knew the direction of the story needed to go a different route than what he originally tended.
He didn't George R.R. Martin himself, but he did dig himself into a hole.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then let me ask you this, because there were hints like in his like depiction of what he wanted to do with the books. Why do you think that DC might have cut ties with Diamond?
So from what it seems like, it's weird because Diamond and looking back, I don't think they had any discrepancies in the past.
Why.
Yeah.
Usually if it's something big, it would at least, it's not like they would publicly announce it or they would publicly denounce each other, but it would leak out. You know, in the comic book world, this is breaking news essentially.
But DC Comics is known to kind of like spread their property around, especially when it comes to like movies and stuff like that. Certain, you know, or like just in animation or cartoons and stuff, they like to like spread it out within different sort of mediums and stuff like that.
Yeah. But I mean, Disney does that too.
Disney does that too. That's the thing. But that's the thing. It's still weird to me.
Can I put my 2 cents in on why do I think it is?
Yeah.
I have a feeling that it could have possibly been the cuts that Diamond possibly could have had to make because of this pandemic. So like we don't think about it, but like during the pandemic, you saw a lot of stores basically close down because they just didn't have any business.
Yeah.
And Diamond being a distribution company, what was it going to distribute?
At the end of the day, it's a company.
Yeah, exactly. So if it doesn't make any money through distribution, I'm going to assume that DC probably can't wait anymore. I think that DC has more projects on its way. And knowing how DC works, they have books lined up. They're probably not going to announce anything for a while.
Yeah.
But when they're going to release stuff, they're going to release stuff in bulk.
Yeah.
Like in like huge amounts. Marvel is a huge how can I what would I call them? They're huge culprits, I guess, of doing this, where they release like issue number 1 of this comic ties into this thing, ties into that, into the main arc of this one. So I kind of have the feeling that DC was planning that, and they just can't wait for Diamond to recuperate its losses, essentially. Especially with things opening back up, I'm assuming that it probably had to reopen up some stuff again.
Yeah.
And DC was like, listen, you guys are great, but, you know, we need to have a game plan. And I don't think that Diamond might have had a game plan ready.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of sad because you don't want to see this happen.
No.
You don't. So with that in mind, I mean, do you like, with me saying this, do you feel like you have an idea of what could have possibly happened?
It could have been that whole thing where it's like, you know, I mean, it makes that makes a lot more sense because we've been seeing companies on the news. Like I just saw that the Uber company had to let go like almost like 30% of their employees because they had to make up for everything that's going on in the pandemic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think even certain companies are closing down, or restaurant companies like Soup Plantation.
Soup Plantation shut down a couple weeks back. Yeah. Because they just couldn't do it.
They couldn't do it. You know, because no one really went there, but still, like, you know.
Yeah.
Do you know anyone that went to Soup Plantation?
I mean, I did. But I wasn't like a regular visitor.
That's what I'm saying. You know,
you know anyone that was like a regular? No.
You know, like,
I just whenever we craved it.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's what I think it was. Yeah. I think that it just didn't have a game plan going forward. You can't really blame them for it because what were they supposed to do? They're a distribution company. They were the middleman for the publishing companies.
I think also because Diamond Distributors as a whole is located in one location. And I think because it might be located in Maryland. And
whereas
I think
the other ones that DC's working with,
I think that's why in case they have 3 distributors, one state won't be closed prior to another one, and that way it's like, okay, well, you guys can still go to this distributor and stuff like that.
You don't think that DC might have had this planned out already before the pandemic?
I think they may have. Because,
for easier distribution,
or maybe they were working on it at the time because it's a contract thing.
That's such bull.
Yeah, so that's what I'm like.
Yeah, it's a business.
It's a business. At the end of the day, it's a business. So I think they're just looking into not basically putting out stuff altogether in case of another shutdown. Because that's another thing too, is that even doctors and people that work for the CDC have said that there's supposed to be a second wave coming of COVID-19 and stuff like that. It's supposed to come soon, and I think DC is taking that very, very serious and stuff.
Oh, so you're thinking it's preparation?
I think it might be preparation.
For second stage.
Yeah, in case Diamond has to cut ties again because or not, Diamond has to shut down again because the state has to shut non-essential businesses down and stuff like that.
And keep in mind, I mean, most people don't. It's kind of like not big news, but you see this a lot in tech as well. I think certain companies in like South Korea and in Japan and China especially, the factories that basically make components for like computer parts and cell phones and stuff, they've had to shut down because of the pandemic, and that's affected the creation of cell phones and basically computers. So you have lower product being released out. So I feel like that's probably now that you said it, it makes sense though.
Yeah, it could be a mixture.
It could be a mixture of both.
That's the thing.
That's interesting.
A mixture of both.
That's interesting. But you said that Diamond also distributed The Walking Dead.
Yes.
Okay, so they're not only tied with DC, they're also tied with.
They're also tied with Image Comics, Boom Studios, IDW, Dark Horse, and obviously Marvel. That's another big fish for them as well too. A big contract is Marvel. So obviously Diamond is losing a big contract, but at the same time they have other publishers that they can possibly focus on. They can make a deal with them and
which
stuff like
I was going to mention.
Yeah,
because you lose a big client.
Yes,
you lose a big client like DC. Now you have essentially Marvel, and you have Image, you have Dark Horse.
Dark Horse, yes.
Okay, am I thinking of anything else? Boom Comics.
Boom Studios. Diamond, Dynamite Comics. What else? Top Cow. Well, that's also owned by Image as well too.
So when a comic gets delayed, it's not distributor's fault.
No.
Very rarely does it happen with the distribution.
Very, very rarely it's the distributor because essentially they are getting word from the publisher. Usually it's the publisher that says, you got to hold off on sending that comic, or you got to hold off. And then it's up to Diamond to tell us, or it could be the publisher altogether. They want to tell everyone all at once. So they tell all the comic book realtors, send them, I'm assuming, a mass email and stuff like that, sending that you can't put out this comic. Because there's been cases where we've had a comic and we were told not to put it out yet. We had to wait a week.
Okay.
Or 2 weeks and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, when it comes to stuff like that, like, holding off a comic, or a comic gets pushed back, or to send back a comic, it's always the publisher.
It's never the distributor.
It's never distributed.
Very rarely. Very rarely.
Very rarely it's the distributor.
Gotcha. So that would essentially mean that you're right. They can focus on other publishing companies and essentially produce and say, like, look, we don't have this big client anymore, so we can go ahead and focus on you guys now. Marvel can pay the big bucks. And they can essentially say, like, okay, well, not Marvel, Disney essentially can pay the big bucks.
We all know who's holding Marvel's hand.
They can pay the big bucks and say, like, look, we'll enhance our contract, and maybe you can go ahead and focus on us primarily. We want you to distribute our comics before anything else.
They could put out more Disney comics. They already do put out Disney comics, but not a lot. And they could put out more now.
Do they? Because Disney has its own away from Marvel, right?
Yes, Disney has their own publishing company, essentially. I think it's essentially Disney Corp.
Something.
Yeah, something.
Whatever. Yeah. And they're also distributed by Diamond, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So do you think that this could positively affect the publishing companies or negatively affect it?
It could go both ways. It could go where basically maybe Marvel feels like, they are the love child now, like they are basically, they'll have all Diamond's focus on them and stuff like that moving forward. Like, okay, well, we could do this, we could do that, we can do exclusives, and stuff like that. We can put out anything that you guys want, just name it. But there's also the thing that I was worried about is that because DC was the one that pulled the trigger, I thought Marvel would have been the one that kind of pulled the trigger from recent events of the way they've been putting out their comic books since coming back.
Uh-huh.
It's like been speckles of comic books.
So explain that situation, because I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah. So, Marvel and DC was, with coming back on May 20th and putting comic books out, we were all excited to get our books and stuff like that.
Heck yeah, we were.
But the thing is that the first week, they didn't put out anything. They just put out trades. It was just trades. DC put out comic books, but they didn't put out comic books second week coming in.
Which was strange because Marvel had books planned out for release.
Yes. We were actually supposed to be reading the new big story arc, which had to involve the Avengers and Fantastic Four with the Skrulls and the Kree teaming up against Marvel, against Planet Earth, because they were tired of Planet Earth or just being around. So that's like a mass invasion supposed to come.
So the usual.
Yeah. But this is the first time the Kree and the Skrulls are coming together, which is interesting.
No, it's not, because Miss Marvel did that.
Oh yeah.
The movie. Remember, they basically formed that formation, so it could be.
Yes.
That's another thing for another day.
Marvel, Brie Larson and stuff.
Don't mention her
Don't
name.
mention her. It's like an ex-girlfriend.
Don't.
Just don't mention her.
So they were already okay.
So
let me get this straight.
This story was supposed to come out in the middle of like April, and we were supposed to get hints of it by the end of March, and then April we're supposed to be already reading it, and then by May we're in the middle of it. There's supposed to be side stories and stuff like that. Hasn't even come out yet.
And as someone that gets both DC and Marvel comics, I'm gonna say this: the one thing that annoys the crap out of me from Marvel is that they release a bunch of books right before an arc. Yeah. And it's like, oh, you thought you were done this week? Yeah, you come back next week, you get 2 more books tied into this event.
So the new editor-in-chief has said that for Marvel, has said that he is there's gonna be a space in between arcs of story arcs and stuff like that when it came to Marvel main events.
What does he consider a space? What's a space to him? There's never been a space.
There was always, that's like, I remember we read like Secret Wars, and then there was like the standoff, and then there was
oh my god.
Then there was
what was that? What was the arc that like made me so mad because I couldn't stop? Like everything was tied into it. It's like you had to get this issue and that issue, and it's like every Marvel comic arc.
Was it recently or
this was years ago?
Oh,
I'm trying to think about it because there was Secret Wars.
There's Secret Wars,
and then I think it was like after
Civil War 2.
Civil War 2. I can't.
It may have been Civil War 2. Then there was
Civil War 2.
Then there was Original Sin.
Okay.
Which basically, remember, the Watcher died, and so like big mystery was like, who killed the Watcher?
That's where I quit because I think so. It was before that.
Yeah.
Because I remember, I think was it X-Men versus
Avengers versus X-Men.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that one had a bunch of stuff that was like tied in.
Yeah.
So to go back, it's like when Marvel doesn't release something, you know something's up.
Yeah.
Because they always have releases.
They always have a plan on what to release and stuff like that.
Even their main like their mainline comics are bi-weekly, no?
No.
Some of them?
Some of them are actually.
Yeah.
They come out like very close together. They did that with the X-Men, with the new run of X-Men books. There was like 2 books coming out a month and stuff like that.
And you had to like basically, so when an arc comes out, it's like you got to read this and you got to read that and you got to read this, and it's like you spend way more because sometimes an issue that you don't even read may have important key details that are important to the arc.
Yeah, and then when it came to Marvel doing that, that's the thing. It was basically every time it had like a big arc, it would always, when it ends, it'd always be like, oh, it's going to be after these now, we're going to introduce this new character, or we're going to start at number 1 with all these other books and stuff like that.
See,
I remember Jason Aaron wrote Original Sin. That was the one with the Watcher died. We're trying to figure out who it is. And by the end of it, Thor gave up Mjolnir because Nick Fury whispered something to his head, to him, and he felt no longer worthy. Then we got, Jane Foster Thor after that. And then Jason Aaron openly admitted that he wrote Original Sin just to bring in Lady Thor.
I've actually it took me years to like push away this anger, and it's all starting to come back. I think comic books legitimately just make me mad sometimes just because of like the work that goes into it sometimes. But it's like Marvel, when Marvel doesn't release something, it's strange. There's always a release. You said it. Marvel didn't release anything when you guys opened up.
No, the first week we opened up, May 20th, they didn't release any new books. There was just a bunch of trades.
First red flag.
Yeah.
Then the second week
one, wasn't even major titles. It was just continuations, wrapping up stories and stuff like that. They'd even canceled about 2 different titles. They canceled Jane Foster Valkyrie. That had 1 more issue, 1 or 2 issues left in its arc, but they canceled it. And then they canceled Revenge of Cosmic Ghost Rider, which had 1 more issue left to finish, but they decided not to release it. Instead, they are going to put out the trades with those final issues in there.
Can you remind people what trades are again?
Trades are basically collections of books in 1 to 6 issues in 1 binding and stuff like that. Basically, you can get all the issues 1 through 6 or 5 through 12, all in 1 complete set of like a book, but it is shaped as a comic book, so it's a graphic novel essentially and stuff.
For people that go like into comic books and are really familiar with it, it's usually like those thick books that you see on the shelves that have like, what was it? Batman's the one that I can think of is Court of Owls or something like that.
Court of Owls, Killing Joke and stuff, or like how the Watchmen and stuff like that. How it is like just,
that's a trade.
That's a trade. Yeah.
So they're releasing those issues,
those final
in the
issues,
trades,
in the final trades,
which will have everything that people have already collected, and then so that's kind of like a second red flag,
that's
in a way, and then they've just been trickling out with no game plan as to what's going to happen.
Yeah, they haven't even. There's certain comic books that are supposed to be released, and they still haven't disclosed when those dates will be. Since the whole shutdown, some books that were supposed to be released in June, some that were supposed to be released in March, early March, they haven't disclosed when the re-release dates will be.
So let me ask you this: is this early signs of other publishing companies leaving Diamond?
So with DC doing it, I wouldn't be shocked if Marvel did it.
And do what?
Do the same thing. Leave the Diamond Distributors and go through a secondary distributor, or they could make their own.
That's
Which,
I mean, we wouldn't be able to talk about it.
Yeah.
Just because
until
it's like
it happens, or what they plan on doing.
We don't know how, if a company can even make its own distribution.
Yeah. The only thing I'm scared about is that is that going to effectively hurt mom and pop comic book stores? You know.
How so?
Because I don't know what the prices will be. You know, we don't know what the prices will be when those distributors will announce when they can order new books for them and stuff, or how will be the ordering system the shipping system when it comes in. What day will it come in? You know, I know that Diamond puts out, comic books on a certain day to come in either Tuesday or Wednesday. You know, that's how comic book stores, like, okay, if I get it Tuesday, then I can do this and do that and stuff like that. You know, or Wednesday, it's like, okay, they can do that and do this. They set up for what to put out for Wednesday morning. Yeah. Or Wednesday, or just in Wednesday in general. But I don't know how that's going to be when you have to order, DC through another distributor and then Marvel through another distributor as well too. Like,
it's a lot of management.
That's the thing. You have to keep up with different things
rather than all being centralized.
Yeah. Well, you could have just get one thing about it and just be like, okay, here, that's all I have to worry about. This is my order and stuff like that. Now we, comic book stores have to worry about 2 different orders.
That's a scary kind of thought to think about, because you said you said one keyword that kind of like struck out to me, which was pricing. Yeah. So can the distribution companies affect the pricing of certain books?
I'm not too sure they can, because that's where they're buying it from. Because I know that basically, doesn't distributors buy from the publishers?
Distributors buy from the publishers, and then but I feel like it's like and we might get this wrong.
Yeah, that's the thing. We could be wrong. This is all of our own opinion, guys.
Yeah, so we might be wrong, but the way I kind of understand is that the publishing company can dictate the pricing and essentially say that this is how much we're going to give you for the book, or to pay you for the distribution.
That's true.
And this is what we recommend the price. That's now it just hit me right now. The recommended pricing for these mom and pop shops are essentially could be completely different.
Yeah. So does that mean? Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. Could it mean that DC could change their own prices as well too?
I don't think they will. I think that DC will keep its pricing, but the mom and pop shops will probably say we got to charge a little bit more because of what's going on.
Yeah.
So like if an issue, what's the standard price of an issue? Like $4?
Yeah, it's like $3.99.
Yeah, so $4, right? And that's literally on the barcode.
Yeah.
So I don't think that price is going to change. What I think is these mom and pop shops are going to be essentially saying, well, because of this distribution and because we have to pay more possibly through the distribution company to get it, we can't afford to just sell you this book for $4.
Yeah.
We'd have to probably sell this book for maybe an extra $1 or $2. And if you really, that's the thing, is that's that culture of like really still being devoted to your comic book store, that still exists. So that should be perfectly fine. But you're always going to have those people that are like, oh, well, you know what? I can just find this, this book easier through an online retail or something. And that's where it could negatively affect, that's where it could regularly or negatively affect these mom and pop shops.
Yeah.
So it's tough to tell. It's tough to say like where this is going to go. And Disney making their own publishing company, I feel like they have way too many, not Disney, excuse me, Marvel.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Would Marvel go? Would Disney go if Marvel leaves?
That's another thing too. So if Marvel decided to leave Diamond Distributors, then does that mean Disney
Also
tags along?
They kind of depends. We'd have to look up to see if Marvel Comics is still connected to DC.
Yeah.
Because I think they kind of are.
I think, well, obviously you can see it through the influence of like the movies.
Yeah.
When you watch like, how certain characters are in the movies, the comic books kind of tweak it up a bit where
the
it's
death
like
of the Fantastic Four, the separation of the X-Men, and not necessarily being comprised.
Yeah.
Now they have the Fantastic Four back because of 20th Century Fox being sold.
Yes.
So they're bringing them back.
And they brought back all the X-Men characters essentially.
Their original ways, not Old Man Logan and stuff.
Yeah.
They've actually brought them back. So it'd be interesting to see if Marvel does decide to separate and Disney also decides to piggyback and say like, look, you guys are cool, but they might not because they are a smaller. When it comes to their comics, they are a little bit smaller, not so well known.
There's not like a mass production of Disney comics.
So that could be it. Now, with all of this, all this, I wouldn't call it drama. I'd say more of like weird business kind of, we'd have to keep an eye on it.
Weird little area that we're in right now.
I want to bring up digital comics.
Okay.
Because digital comics has been a topic of discussion for years at this point.
Yeah.
Ever since Marvel has basically made it. I think Marvel is one of the bigger ones because they're the ones that, at least from a consumer perspective, they've advertised it more than anybody else.
Yeah.
You buy their issues and they give you the code for free.
Yeah. So I remember that was always a thing when I got back into comic books was that when you buy essentially, I think it's like a $3.99 comic book, you're getting the digital copy with it. And that was cool. I think that's a smart business standpoint.
But did you ever read them digitally?
No.
Exactly.
I always put them in because those digital codes actually, they say they expire, but they really don't expire. It's just like it's like basically we really want you to put it in by this date, and stuff like that. But they actually don't expire.
I've never done it.
Never done it?
Never done it.
You should. It's actually, I do it because they actually did a point where if you put in your area and stuff like that, you could, a credit goes to, or like a small percentage of that, like how much it is, goes back to the store that you bought it from.
You mean to tell me I could have been helping out the store?
Yeah.
Renee, this is important information here. This is okay. Now
that was years ago. I remember when that was years ago. So I don't know if they still do that, but they still offer the digital code.
But it's like the reason they bring it up because they still offer it.
Yeah,
they'll still have it right there. The reason why I bring it up is because I remember years back when we used to do a separate podcast away from this.
Yeah.
It's dead now. But when we used to talk about it, digital comics felt like the enemy. We didn't want it to be the prominent thing.
Yeah, I think that's what people were afraid of, is that it was digital comics were always going to be people were afraid that distributors or just readers in general would converge into digital comics.
Because around that time was when Kindle was kind of taking shape.
Kindle blew up and became a thing.
The digital book was the thing, you know?
It was cheaper too, you just get those digital books and they're cheaper.
Yeah, exactly. They're cheaper. You don't have to wait for anything.
Nope.
You go to Barnes & Noble, they might not have the book in stock, so they have to order it and send it to your place, which is like a week. But our argument back then was doesn't beat, like a digital comic book doesn't beat the physical one, because you want to have the feeling, like that waxy paper feel and grip to the book and the smell of it and all this other stuff. Like, as much as we joke about it, that genuine feeling of it is essentially what drives us to keep coming to get the books. Yeah. And there's value in it too. I mean, issue 1 of Gwen Stacy's Spider Gwen. I was like thinking of, like, it's not Spider Girl, but issue number 1. The actual physical copy of it is what, over $200? Yeah, in mint condition. So it's like there's still collectors out there that will basically try to grab up as much as they can.
Digital comics will always be there as well too. That's the thing. So digital comics, it's not like neither one medium is gonna replace the other. That's not gonna happen. Digital comics have solidified to be a cheaper and more easier and efficient way for comic book readers to read. Those ones that can't afford to leave and commit to going to the store, coming back every week and stuff like that. So a lot of people they don't have that freedom.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, with digital comics, there's no middleman.
No.
So, do you feel like this cutting of ties could probably influence the increase of digital comic reading?
It might, for people that
think about it, because DC
it would have to. That's the thing. It would have to affect the comic book stores. So say that you do go to a comic book store in your day-to-day life, and they both have DC or Marvel, and let's say you only read DC and that's it, and the store that you go to now after this whole thing doesn't collect DC anymore because they don't want to go through another distributor, because that could happen too. They don't want to go through another distributor. They just want to worry about Diamond, just one area to get it from. That's it. Not worry about a secondary one, especially a big publisher like DC and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, and this could be like in a places, because there's a lot of states that only have like 1 or 2 comic book stores in general areas that people have to drive all out that way to go.
Reasons why I won't leave LA.
To drive all that way to go to get the next issue of Batman and Action Comics or Wonder Woman and stuff like that. So let's say that comic book store doesn't collect DC Comics anymore. Well, how the hell am I going to get it? You're going to buy online and wait for it in the mail and stuff like that? Wait for your issues? What if you have a big week of pickups that you do? Like, what if you not only just read those issues, but you read Justice League Dark, and they all come out at that same week? Yeah. And you're, like, deprived from that. You're like, oh, God, I got to pay shipping and handling, or I got to go on eBay and stuff like that. Digital comics, I should not say that. That person, they might have to just go to digital comics. So yeah, that is actually a real reality thing. I do believe in that.
Okay, so you can still order comic books online. Yeah, there are retailers that exist online only, like Amazons of comic books. That, because I've seen it. I can't think of like a site off the top of my head, but I've seen it where you can essentially buy issues online and have them sent to you, and all they do is just do bulk shipping and stuff like that, right? So I kind of have the feeling, and we'll use the last 10 minutes essentially to kind of just explain what our predictions are for this whole thing. But I kind of get the feeling that if DC kind of parted ways with Diamond and essentially said, we're going to distribute the comic books these 3 different ways, if these 3 other distribution companies don't necessarily work out, I hope, knock on wood, this isn't what's going to happen, because I'm going to miss it. I kind of have the feeling that DC will essentially start pushing out their own digital comic distribution, and essentially saying, oh, well, instead of waiting 1 week for the new issue to come out, how about you get it online right now for $4, and you can get it in your phone right then and there. Yeah, that could be a thing.
That's actually a strong reality that could happen.
That's gonna suck.
It is. That's the thing.
That's gonna suck.
I hope that doesn't happen, because I am actually a very heavy DC reader.
I think Marvel did that before. They tried doing it.
Marvel. So it was like late '90s that Marvel just tried to just cut ties with Diamond. That's another thing. Marvel did this. It's not the first time this happened with a big publisher. Marvel did it a while back, like 2-3 decades ago.
And they came back.
So
could be a temporary separation.
It could be a temporary separation. That's another thing that we didn't actually put into effect. This could be a temporary separation. Maybe it's like basically, when you're with that toxic girlfriend and she says, "I'm breaking up with you," and just leaves and walks away. And
you're like, wait, my life was so much better. Yeah. It's just the comfortability of it. Yeah.
And you're just like, wait, Sheila, come back. That talking from personal experience.
No, of course not. No. But yeah, no, you're right. It's like they could have just separated and been like, we're better off using these 3 distribution companies. Yeah. And then they realize that it just isn't the same. Yeah, and they might just be like, Diamond, please take me back, please.
Yeah,
and
that could be it. Diamond just could be that guy. Just like, go ahead, go. Let's see what happens.
Could be temporary too, in the sense that maybe Diamond just needs a little more time to kind of figure out what it's trying to do.
That could be it too. Maybe DC is ready. Like, look, we're ready to put out these books. And he goes, well, the thing is, we can't put out these books yet. We don't have the people, like you said. We don't have the people to do it right now. We don't have the time frame that you guys want to put out these books. We can't do it. Okay. And like, okay, well then during that time we will do a different distributor, and then until you guys get caught up, we'll let us know.
So what's the prediction we're going to stick with? Like, I think this
that's
through.
The thing. We are going like through. 3 different timelines right now.
The
multiverse, because this could happen any different ways, guys. We don't
the
know. This just happened.
Worlds theory. What's going to happen,
listeners? This just happened, so we have so many things, so many theories and stuff like that.
If we're right, this could break us. This could be like the thing, you know? Yeah. What are we going to send
now
ourselves
that we've talked about it? Like the last 2. Those ones seem more probable right now too. That's the thing. The whole like taking a break and then coming back.
That's the one that you think.
I'm going to stick. That's because it sounds funny and good. I like that.
Off of humor is what you want to build
like
your.
I'm a lighthearted person. That's why.
That they're going to come crawling back.
I think they're going to go crawling back.
I kind of want that too, but not because it's humorous. I just don't want digital comics to be the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, so if I actually had to choose one, you know what? I think it
just stick with the first one you said.
Yeah.
I think that's a viable, very real possibility.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason why we should think that they might not
it's
come back.
It's going to be a forever thing.
Yeah. Because, I mean, unless we heard that Diamond essentially said, we've gone bankrupt, this is it, there's still a possibility that they can fix a contract and make it come back.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen it. Again, this could be all related to things that we've seen in other more popular media. Not to say that comic books aren't a popular media, but it's like we've seen it happen with like the movie industry, for example.
Yeah.
Where they said, oh, well, we don't want to do any. Oh, the most recent one is the Sony Spider-Man thing.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. That Sony said, we're not going to let you use our character anymore.
Yeah.
Because we figured out we can make more money. And then what ended up happening?
They came back, but with a new contract and stuff and new policies and stuff like that.
So you are. Let's stick with you. You know what? We're going with that one.
We're gonna be optimistic, guys.
We're gonna go with that one.
Yeah.
We're gonna say that at the end of the day, I think that Disney. Or not Disney. What the heck am I talking about?
D's. It's the D's. I get
you. We're gonna go with this. We're gonna say that DC. God,
and man.
Diamond. They're essentially just at this point just separated for the time being.
Yeah, it's temporary. I think if anything, if I had to give it a time frame, maybe I give it a year.
A year.
Yeah.
How about let's throw a little spice into this. A little more spice in this.
Yeah.
I'm going to predict that DC has big issues coming out within a year. They're going to be releasing a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And they just needed these like distributors to essentially do their work for them and say, okay, we need you to release these things like now. We have like 6 issues that are important for them to come out on this day. And then another like 5 more on this day. And we need them out quick. And Diamond just wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
And then as soon as everything starts to die down and we have our monthly issues and, we're not picking up 10 books in a month from one publishing company, they might just come back and say like, Diamond, look, we love you. We realize that our relationship was like the best thing that could have happened to us. Let's work out another contract. And then they managed to, work together on it.
Yeah.
Could be a possibility.
I see that. Yeah.
Okay. That's what we're going to stick on.
Yeah.
So if we come back in a year and revisit issue 1, you think that that's going to be the possibility?
I think so.
All right. I think that's where we might end that. Yeah. With that prediction.
Yeah.
Great. All right. What a good first issue.
Hey, great first issue, guys. Thank you for sticking around. If you guys have stuck around this long, thank you for listening.
No, thank you guys. This is issue number 1 of Keeping Up with the Nerds Variety Hour. You can find us if you're listening to this on YouTube. We're going to go ahead and link the Spotify and Podbean links in the description below. If you're on Spotify or Podbean, I know that they have descriptions on there as well. Just click on the descriptions and it'll direct you over to the YouTube channel or whichever one. Just,
whatever's
follow us,
easiest.
Whatever's easiest. We'll connect our Twitter and Instagram handles on the bottom as well. The Keeping Up with the Nerds one, as well as our personal owns, just in case, you guys want to follow us as well. But if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow the Spotify and Podbean. Don't forget to follow us on our social medias as well. There's a lot of stuff to follow. Advertise us, ask us questions, do whatever, help us be the best podcast we can be in terms of, nerdism and stuff.
Yes, we want to be better for you guys.
And if you guys ask us questions, we will answer them in the next episode. There is no doubt about it. We want to make sure that we interact with you guys. We know as much as we know, but if you guys have anything else that you guys want us to talk about, any questions regarding things about the last episode, hit us up. Hit us up on our socials. Hit us up on the description or in the comment sections. We will try our best to answer them. Are we good?
We're good.
Should we cue the outro?
Cue the outro.
Here we go. Man, this is nervous. You had the first one. I'm going for this one.
Thank you, citizens, for listening to this issue of Keeping Up with the Nerds Variety Hour. I'm your super sidekick co-host, Brian, and your super host, Rene. Coming to you from
oh my God,
you had it! You had it! Oh, man.
Let's roll it back. Roll it back.
Thank you, citizens, for listening to this issue of Keeping Up with the Nerds Variety Hour. I am your super sidekick co-host, Brian, and your superhero host, Rene. Coming to you from 12920 Philadelphia Street, Whittier, California, recording at Undercity Comics. We thank you, citizens, once again, and hope to see you all next time.